I am Elena Morales, and for 41 years, I believed I was married to a good man. That belief was the foundation of my life. The quiet certainty I carried like a steady flame through decades of routine, sacrifice, and love. I built my days around that flame, raising a family, running a small business, smiling through exhaustion, trusting without question. I did not know that trust could rot so quietly, so completely, until the night I realized my marriage was not simply failing, but had already collapsed long before I noticed the cracks. The house was unusually quiet that evening, not the peaceful quiet that comes after a long day, but a heavy, pressing silence that made every sound feel amplified. The refrigerator hummed too loudly. The clock ticked, like it was counting down to something I didn't yet understand. My husband, Victor, had come home late again, smelling of cologne I hadn't bought, and excuses I hadn't asked for. He said he was tired, said work was demanding, said the same things he had been saying for years. I nodded, as I always did. I had learned long ago that nodding was easier than arguing, easier than asking questions that might lead to answers I wasn't ready to face. But that night, something inside me refused to stay quiet. Perhaps it was instinct, perhaps it was the accumulated weight of too many lonely dinners, and too many lies told gently enough to sound like truth. Victor fell asleep quickly, his breathing deep and careless. I lay awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, remembering the man I had married. He used to look at me like I was the center of his world. He used to reach for my hand without thinking. Somewhere along the way, that man had disappeared, replaced by someone who shared my house but not my life. I got up quietly and went to the living room, telling myself I was just restless. I cleaned, straightened, moved things that didn't need moving. When you're avoiding a truth, busy hands are excellent liars. His jacket lay over the back of a chair. I picked it up, intending to hang it, and felt something stiff in the pocket. A receipt. I stared at it longer than necessary. A restaurant across town, a time that didn't match his story, a table for two. It wasn't proof, not yet, but it was enough to make my chest tighten. I placed the receipt back carefully, as if it might explode, and sat down at the table, my thoughts racing. I told myself there had to be an explanation. There always was, if you tried hard enough to find one. The next morning, I watched Victor leave for work with a kiss on my forehead and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. As soon as the door closed, the house felt like it exhaled. I stood there for a long moment, then did something I had never done in 4 decades of marriage. I decided to stop pretending. Over the next few days, I paid attention, not obsessively, not dramatically, just honestly. I noticed how he guarded his phone, how he stepped outside to take calls, how he seemed irritated when I asked simple questions. I noticed the way he spoke about my work, my bakery, as if it were an inconvenience rather than the labor of a lifetime. I noticed how invisible I had become in my own home. What hurt the most was not suspicion, but realization, the slow understanding that I had been alone for years without knowing it. When the truth finally revealed itself, it didn't arrive gently. It came like a door slammed open in the dark. The woman was someone I trusted, someone I had welcomed into my home, someone I had defended when others questioned her intentions. The betrayal was layered, cruel in its intimacy, and when I saw it with my own eyes, something inside me went very still. There is a moment when pain becomes clarity. I did not scream. I did not confront them immediately. I did not cry the way movies tell you to cry. Instead, I felt a calm settle over me, cold, deliberate, focused. I realized that anger, when sharpened by truth, could become resolve. I gathered evidence quietly, not for revenge in the dramatic sense, but for protection. I documented lies, recorded conversations, saved messages. Each piece confirmed what my heart already knew. They were not only betraying me emotionally, but planning to strip me of everything I had built. My bakery was my life's work. I started it with borrowed money, tired hands, and a stubborn belief that I could create something of my own. Victor had never believed in it, not really. He tolerated it because it benefited him. Now he wanted control of it, and she wanted the lifestyle it promised. They spoke of me like an obstacle. That was the moment my sadness transformed into something else entirely. I consulted professionals quietly, lawyers, accountants, people who spoke in facts rather than feelings. I learned what was mine, what could not be taken, and what I needed to do to protect myself. Knowledge gave me power, and power gave me peace. I waited. When the confrontation finally came, it wasn't explosive, it was surgical. Calm words, undeniable proof, consequences laid out clearly and without emotion. They denied at first, of course, then pleaded, then blamed. Betrayal follows a predictable pattern once exposed. I listened without flinching. The aftermath was ugly, public, humiliating for them, in ways they never anticipated. I did not orchestrate chaos. Their own actions did that. Truth has a way of spreading once it is no longer hidden, and when it does, it burns away pretense quickly. My son learned the truth in the harshest way possible. That pain nearly broke me, but together, we stood on the other side of it, choosing honesty over denial, healing over silence. It took time, it took tears, it took forgiveness not for them, but for ourselves. That the divorce was finalized. The business remained mine. The house became quieter, but lighter. Loneliness returned, yes, but this time it was honest loneliness, not the kind that comes from sharing space with someone who no longer sees you. I rebuilt my life piece by piece. Mornings in the bakery became sacred again. The smell of bread reminded me that creation is an act of courage. Customers smiled, unaware of the storm that had passed through my life, and I smiled back not because I was pretending, but because I had survived. I learned that dignity is not loud. Strength does not always shout. Sometimes it waits, watches, and chooses the right moment to stand. I am no longer the woman who ignored her instincts to keep the peace. I am no longer afraid of being alone. I am not bitter, though I have every reason to be. I am free, and that freedom cost me illusions, but it gave me myself. If there is one truth I carry forward, it is this: betrayal does not end your story. It reveals who you are when the lies fall away. And when you choose yourself, after a lifetime of choosing others, you are not selfish, you are finally honest. I sit in my quiet home now, sunlight filtering through the windows, hands dusted with flour, heart steady. The pain has softened into wisdom, the anger has cooled into resolve, and the woman I see reflected back at me is someone I respect. That is how my story ends. Not with destruction, but with clarity, courage, and a life reclaimed. God bless.